If you really stop and think about it, your daily digital life is, well, it's really defined by a series of micro
Oh,
feelings.
absolutely. Tiny little moments.
Right, like you pick up your phone, you open an app to order coffee or maybe check your bank balance, and sometimes it just feels completely effortless.
Yeah, it's smooth. It just works.
Exactly, it was solid. I always think it feels like closing the door of a high-end luxury car. You know that
Oh,
feeling.
for sure. That heavy, satisfying thud.
Everything just clicks right into place.
Oh, yeah.
But then you open another app, maybe one you're forced to use for work or like a utility company portal, and it leaves you secretly frustrated.
Yeah, the ones you dread opening.
Yes, it feels like you're pushing a wobbly shopping cart with one broken wheel down a supermarket aisle, just
Yeah.
constantly fighting it.
That is such a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And it is a surprisingly psychological kind of friction, right?
Hmm.
Because the natural instinct in those really frustrating moments is to just blame the technology itself.
Mm.
We assume it's, I don't know, bad code or a glitchy server or just an outdated operating system causing that hesitation.
Right. We just think, oh, the software is buggy. But today, we are going to explore a completely different reason why some digital products feel incredible and others literally make you want to throw your phone across the room.
It's a fascinating topic.
It really is. And today's deep dive is powered by some incredible research from a January 2026 article by Tobias Reidenhag. He's the head of design at Intunio.
Which is a UX design and development studio over in Gothenburg, Sweden, right?
Exactly. And they figured out the hidden mechanism behind why your favorite apps feel so seamless. The article is called Why the Brand is Part of the User Experience. And our mission today is to uncover this hidden psychological tug of war happening behind the screens.
Yeah, specifically between marketing departments and product development teams. It addresses a massive blind spot in how modern organizations build their digital presence.
So we are going to look at how the whole concept of brand is just completely misunderstood in the digital age. Like, it is not about finding the perfect shade of corporate blue or, designing a clever logo.
No, not at all. It is about the fundamental mechanics of how you, the user, actually interact with the screen.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because Antonio points out a core structural problem that exists in, honestly, most every modern company. There is this great organizational divide.
The classic silo effects.
Exactly. So on one side, the marketing and communication teams are siloed off, and their mandate is to own the brand.
Right.
They formulate the identity, the visual expression, the tone of voice, basically how the organization wants to be perceived by the outside world.
Right. And then on the completely opposite side of the building, or let's be real, a totally different Slack workspace, you have the UX and product teams.
Yeah, totally disconnected.
Completely. And their mandate is entirely different. They own the delivery. So their focus is strictly on user flows, function, and usability. They're asking questions like, how do we get the user securely through this checkout process? Or how do we load this data faster?
And the thing is, both of these teams are usually full of incredibly talented people, right? Like, they are doing their jobs really well in isolation.
Absolutely. The talent isn't the issue.
Right. The friction happens because the connection between these two islands is incredibly weak. So marketers are broadcasting this big promise, and developers are just building functional pipes.
And the result of that disconnect, you get digital products that technically work, but they feel completely generic or they just fail to hold together over time.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about this while prepping for the deep dive, and I came up with an analogy.
Oh, let's hear it.
So it's like going to a highly anticipated restaurant. The marketing team designed an unbelievably luxurious menu and ambiance. The lighting in the foyer is stunning. The descriptions of the food on the website make your mouth water.
Okay, setting high expectations.
Exactly. And then the kitchen staff, the ones actually focused purely on the delivery, they come out and serve your gourmet meal in plastic takeout containers with a flimsy spork.
That's brilliant. Yeah, the system technically works to feed you,
Right.
but the promise just doesn't match the reality at all.
Right. The basic biological function of a restaurant is being fulfilled, but the user, or in this case, the diner, is left feeling totally disconnected. Because as the user tapping on your screen, you don't see an organizational chart.
No, you don't know or care
Right.
that the marketing team and the product team have different budgets and literally don't speak to each other. You only experience the final output.
Exactly.
And Intudio makes a really crucial point here. This disconnect manifests inside the user as this, like, low-grade uncertainty.
Oh, that's a great phrase. Low-grade uncertainty.
Yeah. You subconsciously start asking yourself questions as you navigate the software.
Yeah.
Like, Is this the same system I started in? Can I actually trust this app to work the same way tomorrow?
Which brings us to a really important realization. This feeling of uncertainty isn't just a minor annoyance where you roll your eyes and move on.
Right, it goes much deeper.
It's rooted in deep human psychology. It begs the question, why do our brains react so strongly, so negatively, to something as seemingly trivial as a slightly misplaced button on a web page?
What's fascinating here is the research Intunio cites regarding perception and human system interaction.
Yeah, let's get into that.
Well, much of what you experience when you use a digital product happens entirely subconsciously. When we interact with digital tools, our brain is basically desperately looking for consistency.
Consistency across the visual and structural layout.
Yes, and the interactive elements too, because consistency is subconsciously interpreted by the user as thoughtful and reliable.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and inconsistency signals the exact opposite. It signals chaos.
But come on, let me push back on this a little bit. Are users really throwing their hands up over a slight change in spacing or like a different shade of blue?
Well, consciously? No. If you interrupted a user and asked them what was wrong, they wouldn't say, oh, the hex code changed on this button.
Right, they'd probably just say the app feels clunky.
Exactly. They might not be able to articulate what is wrong at all. However, they will subconsciously attribute that tiny hesitation or doubt directly to the organization behind the software.
Wow. So they aren't blaming the code, they're blaming the company.
Yes, they transfer that doubt. A disorganized interface translates to a disorganized company in the user's mind.
So a bad button doesn't mean this app is bad, it means this company is incompetent.
Precisely. And this ties directly into the concept of cognitive load, which Intunio talks about regarding recognition.
Right, the source brings up recognition because human brains are evolutionary wired to conserve energy, right?
We don't want to think harder than we have to.
So when a product looks and acts exactly as you expect it to, you don't have to translate the interface. Your brain spends way less energy figuring out how to use the tool and more energy on your actual task.
That's the core of it. In frequently used products, you build a mental model. You know instinctively where the search bar is, what a swipe does, and when the product honors that model, you feel secure.
But when it breaks even subtly, it creates immediate friction.
Exactly. Which is why the very best product branding is actually completely invisible. You only notice the branding of a digital product when it is missing or broken.
That is so counterintuitive, but it makes perfect sense. But if the psychology is this clear and the stakes for trust are this high, companies should have solved this by now, right?
You would think so.
But they haven't. And according to Intunio, it's because the industry is paralyzed by 3 massive, stubborn myths about digital branding.
Yeah, these illusions are deeply entrenched. The first massive myth is the idea that branding is merely surface level.
Like it's just a coat of paint applied at the very end of the process to make the wireframes look pretty.
Right. But in a product context, if you do not have an underlying structure, consistent behavior, and logic, visual expression is literally just a hollow surface.
It can't support a good experience.
No, not at all. You could put world-class typography on a broken user flow, and it will still feel terrible.
Okay, so that's the first myth. Now the second myth, and here's where it gets really interesting. The second myth is the belief that UX should be perfectly neutral.
Yeah, the idea of an objective interface.
I have to admit, this feels a bit counterintuitive to me. Shouldn't a good user interface just get out of the way? Like, shouldn't it be perfectly neutral and let the user do their thing?
It's a very common assumption. But Intunio debunks this powerfully. They argue that UX can literally never be neutral.
Never.
Never. Because every single design decision where a button is placed, the terminology used every choice is a signal.
Oh, okay. So it signals what the company actually thinks is important.
Exactly. It signals what they consider to be normal behavior, and most importantly, how much control they actually want to give you, the user.
Wait, that makes total sense. Like, if a company makes it a one-click process to upgrade your subscription, but hides the cancel subscription button behind 5 different menus, that is not a neutral design choice.
Not at all. That is a loud, incredibly clear brand statement about their values. Trying to force neutrality just results in a vague, confusing product.
It tries to say nothing, so it just becomes mush.
Exactly.
All right, so that leads us to the third myth. The belief that the brand simply belongs in the marketing department and not in the product.
Which brings us full circle to that organizational divide we talked about earlier. In reality, the digital product itself is often the most frequent contact point a user has with a company.
Yeah, it's the absolute front line. I might see a company's billboard once a month, but I am opening their app every single day.
Right. It is the venue where trust is built or broken on a daily basis.
So having dismantled those three myths, how does Intunio propose companies should actually operate? Because we know marketing and products shouldn't live on isolated islands.
So Intunio's core philosophy is a total perspective shift. We have to start seeing the brand as action, not just an artifact.
Brand is action. I like that. So instead of just a PDF brand book sitting on a server.
Exactly. Branding merely sets the direction for how a company wants to be perceived. But UX and design are what determine if that direction actually holds up in practice.
But practically speaking, how do you enforce that across a massive company with different development teams?
This is where things like design systems and interaction principles come in. They aren't just there to carry a marketing message. A mature design system acts as a guarantor.
A guarantor. So it ensures the experience holds together across different screens, different code bases, and different technical solutions.
Precisely. It mathematically guarantees that the visual and interactive language remains consistent.
The source actually gives some really grounded, everyday examples of what it looks like when this fails versus when it succeeds.
Oh yeah, the examples are great.
Like one failure they point out is when a system changes its tone of voice across different pages. You're in a playful onboarding flow, and then you click the FAQ, and suddenly it reads like a sterile legal document.
Right, it shatters the mental model and creates instant unease.
Another failure is when similar actions suddenly require completely different behaviors. Like swiping left deletes an item here, but opens a menu over there. It makes the app feel unreliable.
But the opposite of that friction is incredibly quiet.
Less flashy, but more powerful.
Exactly. A beautifully cohesive product feels stable, predictable, and cohesive. Intunio points out that this leads to the silent return.
The silent return.
Yeah, a perfectly consistent product rarely prompts users to leave glowing comments about the brand consistency. No one says that. But crucially, it is the exact reason they keep coming back.
It's the silent engine of user retention.
Wow.
Oh, okay. So what does this all mean for you? If we distill this entire deep dive down, the biggest takeaway is this. The brand is not something you look at. It is something you use. The separation between marketing's brand and the product's UX is just an illusion. When you view the brand as a core part of the user experience, it moves closer to the team and the daily decisions that shape how a product actually feels in your hands.
It changes everything about how a digital product is constructed. And I want to leave the listener with a final, slightly provocative question to ponder on their own based on this framework.
Oh, please do.
Think about the digital product you use most often. If we accept Intunio's premise that every single UX interaction is a brand statement, that there is literally no such thing as a neutral design, what do those tiny invisible design choices reveal about what that company really values, regardless of what their marketing billboards say?
Oh, that is a fantastic question to end on. Does their interface prove their marketing is telling the truth? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We really encourage you to start noticing the invisible brand in your daily digital life, and we will catch you next time.